before we get into this video, just want to say, guys, that this episode is presented by Prize Picks. Be sure to visit the Prize Picks app today for a $100 deposit match when you sign up.
So the Indianapolis Colts have a big problem, and they need to get it fixed immediately, or it's going to be a long season. So let's get into it. All right, we are back. What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek, back with another one, guys. Like I said at the top of the video, guys, the Indianapolis Colts have a serious, serious problem, and it is on the defensive side of the ball. Derek, to put it bluntly, the Indianapolis Colts defense was absolutely dog crap against the Houston Texans in a lot of ways. Very poor performance from this bunch, especially in that second half. I felt like the defense, Derek, in that first half had some nice moments. It was more of that bend, don't break, which I know infuriates a lot of people, including us. But in that second half, I mean, to say it was pathetic, to say Gus Bradley was horrendous, I think is putting it lightly. I mean, let's just be frank. Gus Bradley is a terrible coordinator. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. Terrible. Was terrible on Sunday. It was not even close. This Colts defense just could not do anything, Derek. I mean, they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. It was rough. It was tough. And, you know, while it wasn't a complete 100% dumpster fire, especially when you were in the game, your defense could not get a stop. Your defense could not do anything to stop the Houston Texans, either against the run or against the pass. So, Derek, I don't know what it's going to take, and I know a lot of Colts players and, you know, things like that are saying we're going to get it figured out. I just have this to say, and I'll let you kind of give your thoughts. You better figure it out, or else you're going to be in it for a long season, and you're probably going to get some people fired, and you might go to the bench because you're not figuring your crap out. That's how I feel about it when it comes to this group, because like I said, to say it was pathetic, I think is putting it lightly. These players talk so much crap about how we're going to, you know, get our revenge on Houston just to come out and play and have that kind of performance from players that we frankly expect better from. That's my opinion on it. That's how bad it was. You have players who are going on social media who are spending the entire offseason talking crap, and then they go out and they can't even make a tackle. Like, it's that bad, Derek. So that's kind of how I feel about it. So hey, you know right off the top.
I understand the passion, bro. I understand it.
It's infuriating.
It is infuriating. And I'll just say this, folks. I'm going to start off by saying I'm going to be mellow today. My voice is still gone from Sunday.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get any yelling from me in this video. I'm very low tone here tonight. So I do apologize. But
I'll handle it.
Anyways, so yeah, Cody, it's kind of funny to think that I have more concern about the defense going forward than the offense, which is very weird to say because we've all been saying, like, you know, the Indianapolis Colts, like, offense. I mean, there's going to be some growing pains with obviously Anthony Richardson and a few other things, but you're right. That defensive performance on Sunday was definitely not good. And, you know, it's kind of funny too, Cody, because the defense gave up only 12 points in the first half, you know, a touchdown, and they gave up 2 field goals. And you know, for a couple times, you know, the offense put the defense in a really bad spot a couple different times. So, you know, for the Indianapolis Colts to have only given up 12 points in the first half to the Houston Texans, I mean, overall, say what you will about what they were doing, at least in the first half, Cody, at least like that bend but don't break defense was actually living to its name. And we were like, okay, like at least we can work with something with this. You know, they at least weren't marching down the field every time and scoring a touchdown every other drive, right? Like, I mean, you at least saw some things where, especially in the beginning, that pass rush was getting to CJ Stroud quite consistently early in the first half, and that's why it might have made it a little bit more difficult for CJ Stroud to get going. But then that second half, Cody, you're right. Like, it was abysmal. I will say this, the Houston Texans had the ball, Cody, in that second half. They had the ball for 24 of the 30 minutes that they could have slotted for it. So so 23 and a half minutes of our defense being on the field and couldn't get off the field to save their lives. I don't care if the Indianapolis Colts offense was scoring within 3 minutes. I don't care. Like, your whole job as a defense is to get those quick 3 and outs and to get yourselves off the field. The offense's job is to score. It's not to take 6-7 minutes off the clock and score. It's to score. And I mean, and in that second half, it was infuriating because in the second half, the Colts had the ball. I think, what was it? Didn't they have the ball? They had the ball like 4 times in the second half. 3 of them they scored touchdowns on, Cody. So, like, it is infuriating that you were down 5 points at halftime. Your offense scored 3 touchdowns in the second half, and yet somehow, some way, that was still not enough to be able to get you to win that game in the end. And that it's definitely frustrating to see that the defense couldn't get the job done at the end.
Yeah, and as much praise as we gave that defensive line getting after the quarterback in the first half, second half they were virtually non-existent. Like, they still had a few pressures and a couple, like a sack or two, but like it felt like it changed. Like you didn't get to CJ Stroud nearly as many times as you did in that first half. You really tapered off, and you allowed him to stand back there in that pocket, roll out. Now, I know a lot of people like to blame the secondary. I definitely have my issues with the secondary. But Derek, I mean, you were allowing CJ Stroud to make plays on the run. And I mean, let's be real for a second. What secondary can last for that long? What secondary realistically can cover for that amount of time? Like, it's going to happen. If you can't get to the quarterback within 4 to 5 seconds, it's going to inevitably happen.
Especially a Texans team that has the weapons that they do.
Exactly. So, as much as the secondary had issues in this game, I mean, honestly, Derek, my beef is not with the secondary here, which is just crazy to even think about, but it's with the perceived positions that you don't need to feel like you need to worry about. I mean, talk about, Derek, that defensive line that you invested how much into, and that's what you got in that second half. Talk about, the linebacker room, which, like I said, you talked a bunch of crap in the offseason about CJ Stroud and how it's going to be different this time. Only for you, Zaire Franklin, I'm calling you out. For you to go out and post the worst grade via PFF of the entire team. The entire team. Your star linebacker that you paid and is your captain of your defense looks like total crap out there. Like, that is just unbelievable. That is just inexcusable from your captain. Now, again, Zaire Franklin's a proven guy in this league, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here, but I also think he's not above criticism here.
Oh, no, not at all.
He needed to be better. He needed to be better.
Yeah.
He needed to be better. Kenny Moore was not highly graded either. He needed to be better. Like, multiple guys needed to be better. I mean, the front seven in general, for as much as you've invested in it, I mean, to say it was pathetic and embarrassing is not doing it justice enough. You guys, you front seven, you were embarrassing on Sunday. Absolutely embarrassing. You got manhandled out there. And you've been invested in. You brought in a new defensive line coach, and look what happened. It's inexcusable, Derek. Just absolutely inexcusable.
It is, definitely.
So that whole unit needs to be called out because they were pathetic.
Oh yeah, pathetic. The front seven was so bad. I saw so many clips of just like, and I don't know what it was, Cody, because like the main thing you saw was them running inside zone or outside zone, and so clearly they weren't trying to run the ball up the gut because they knew they would never be able to do that with Grover Stewart in the middle. So you try to run away from Grover Stewart, and it sucks because like Grover Stewart had a lot of times where he blew the play up, Cody. Like he blew through the line so many times. But the problem was that when they were going the opposite direction of him, nobody was filling the gap behind him. And that was the issue you had all day. It's like that's why Nick Cross and Julian Blackman were your two leading tacklers in that game, because the linebackers were always blocked. Always blocked. Every run Joe Mixon had, it felt like he was getting past the second level before he got touched. And it was truly insane. I've never seen a situation like that where, this defensive line got so manhandled by it. And I'm not smart enough to know like what needs to change on that. But like, you're right. Zaire Franklin posted the worst defensive grade of any Colt on the defense on Sunday. And that is sad for the captain of your team and the guy that's the leader and the guy that's the tackle leader for your team, like the guy that is used to taking on Derrick Henry of all people. And you were getting absolutely bullied out there, you and EJ Speed and the front four altogether. And the defensive line is not free of criticism here either. Defensive ends did an absolutely poor job of keeping outside contain. The amount of times that Joe Mixon got to the outside and the defensive ends just weren't there to close the gap off, it was really bad. I don't even know what to really say about it. I mean, were they just not prepared? Did they take it too lightly? I don't know. I have no idea how in the world a rushing defense that's always prided themselves on being tough at the point of attack, yet could just get absolutely destroyed by everyone that ran the football in that game.
It was like there was no resistance. That's what was so pathetic about it. Was like you weren't even meeting him at the line of scrimmage, and he was just breaking down. Like that wasn't the case for me, Derek. Was that it was just you weren't even contesting that till he was down the field 5+ yards, and that's a big issue. I mean, that's a major issue. If that's just going to continue to be a thing, you're not going to get hands on him at all. It's like, my gosh, no wonder he ran for, almost, 200 yards, over 150 on you. It's like you just literally like were just so poor in even getting hands on him till he's way beyond the line of scrimmage and already getting close to a first down. It was just really pathetic in that way. So they got to figure that out, man. They got to figure that out, because if this is going to continue to be a trend, I mean, opposing offenses are going to frankly do whatever they want against you, right? They're going to do whatever they want against you. That opens up the play action, that opens up that stuff. And honestly, Derek, I think that's part of the reason why we saw, Houston do what they did, when it came to the passing attack in the second half. It kind of picked up a little bit, was because you had to sell out a little bit more against the run because you couldn't do anything against it. And it opened up more opportunities for CJ Stroud. And if you give CJ Stroud a running game, I don't care how good you are on defense, like he's going to rip you apart. Like that's how good he is. So,
guys, football season is right around the corner. Definitely got to make sure you're getting in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. You guys can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks, guys. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with any entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. I mean, guys, look, I'm looking at some of these entries here. And if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan like myself, which you probably are because you're on here right now, well, I'm just looking at some of these season numbers here. And some of the stuff for Anthony Richardson, I have to get in on. Guys, we have one right here where it's 7.5 on the season rushing touchdowns for Anthony Richardson. Folks, Anthony Richardson had 4 rushing touchdowns in just 10 quarters of football last season. What do you think he's going to do this year when he's actually healthy and fully capable of going? Now, obviously, they're playing into the fact that they think he might get injured. Anthony Richardson doesn't. That 7.5 is an easy more when you want to talk into that one, guys. So make sure you are getting in on the action of getting some of these numbers for Anthony Richardson and other Colts players as well. Remember, guys, be sure to download the Prize Picks app today and use the code BTJ for your first deposit match up to $100.
Yeah, it was just very pathetic for all the way around from a player execution standpoint. But Derek, I don't think we can make this video criticizing the defense without talking about the guy who is leading the charge, and that's Gus Bradley. I mean, Derek, to say it was a pathetic performance from Gus Bradley, especially in the second half, I think is putting it lightly. I mean, Derek, just the same old defense we're used to. It's so infuriating when Gus Bradley, it just seems like he doesn't learn. He's like that old guy that's set in his ways, and he just will not make changes no matter what it takes. Even if you're getting lit up, like, he won't make changes. And it is just so infuriating to watch every single time when the Colts have to make a play, like opposing offense is just, making a play on them instead. And it always feels like the Colts are, to steal an old, football phrase, the Colts are always the nail, not the hammer, right? With Gus Bradley in this defense. That's what it feels like. They don't attack. Like Shane Steichen in this offense, they attack. They're a very attacking offense. They're aggressive. They make other teams adapt to them, while the Colts defense, it just always feels like they're more reactionary than attacking, right? And that I think that's a big problem, Derek. I mean, we talked about last year how much the Colts struggled or were unwilling, maybe even more, to send the blitz and to get home and to do those things when it mattered. But Derek, I think you even saw it even more in this game when you had multiple opportunities in that second half on 3rd and long where you just allowed guys to run open, right? Because you couldn't get pressure or you weren't sending extra pressure, right? And that's just infuriating. And I think if this continues, Derek, Gus Bradley's going to be out of the job, because this just frankly cannot continue the way it's continuing, with just honestly very poor coaching. And I think Gus Bradley is one of the worst defensive coordinators in the NFL because of his inability and unwillingness to adapt when he needs to. I think that's what's holding this team back as well on the defensive side of things, is a coach that's unwilling to change for the better.
I mean, the problem is we all know the issues with this defense. You have a secondary that is young and they're inexperienced, and they don't really fit the kind of scheme that you want. Now, in retrospect to Gus Bradley, I mean, you can't really run your cover 3 zone scheme however you want it to be. You can't really run it at all when you're getting the ball ran down your throat all game. So that also didn't help things at all either. But I mean, you're right. Like, this team, again, refuses to just be more aggressive. Like the few times that the Colts actually brought pressure against CJ Stroud, for the most part, it usually was very useful. It was very effective, especially early in the game. And the few times that we were blitzing, we're getting to CJ Stroud before he can make a play. And I don't know why we can't do more of that. You're right. Like, it's the exact opposite with the offense and the defense. The offense makes the defense adapt to them. But for some reason, the Colts defense just always has to react to what the other team's offense is doing. Like, we can't ever just take the game into our own hands. And I get it that there's not a lot of star-studded talent right now in this young secondary, but like, you're right. Things got to change, man. Like, but they won't. They're not going to. And if the Colts finish with a bottom 5 defense, which by the looks of it, Cody, it looks like they might, if they keep this pace up, then yeah, you're gonna see Gus Bradley go by the end of the year, because it's just absolutely ridiculous that a team that is so inexperienced and is still trying to figure out its ways is having to run an outdated defense that doesn't cater to this team's strengths at all. And that's what pisses me off more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at all, if that does happen by the end of the season. I just got to wonder behind closed doors, even though Steichen will never say it, how much if he could truly, pick his ideal defensive coordinator, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be Gus Bradley.
I'm pretty
I think
sure it
we're
wouldn't
probably
either.
both. I mean, because yeah, you'd like a defensive coordinator that's going to attack, that's going to send exotic blitzes, that's going to do some of that stuff like defensively that the Colts do offensively, where they attack and they keep opposing teams guessing, like that kind of stuff. That would be such a breath of fresh air for this defense. And so
I'm willing to give up a few more big plays throughout the year if it means that every game there's a few more plays that it might alter the course of a game because we decided to be aggressive.
yeah, exactly. At least I want to know you're trying. It's more infuriating when it feels like you're just being frankly lazy in certain ways, where you're keeping it as so simple, and you have opportunities to change the trajectory of the game, but you're not, right? Because you're unwilling to do it. You're unwilling to change. You're unwilling to say, "Oh, maybe I need to look in the mirror a little bit." And like we said, we're not coaches, we're not at the NFL level, but it's very obvious that it's not working the way that Gus Bradley has done it. It's been 2 straight years now, Derek. We'll give him that first year, but again, he had Stephon Gilmore still playing at a really high level. He had Isaiah Rodgers, who was a pretty good corner, I think really good number 2. He had Rodney McLeod, and now he doesn't have any of those guys.
Yeah.
And again, youth and inexperience, but also you got to help those guys out. If you're going to truly roll with these young guys, you got to do something to help, mitigate that as much as possible, not just throw them out to the wolves, and that's what it seems like the Colts are doing. And Gus Bradley's doing is kind of throwing these young guys out to the wolves and saying, all right, good luck, and not really giving them, some help that they need as young players that are going into year 2 and 3 respectively. So that's what's just kind of ridiculous about it is if you want to roll with the young secondary, fine, but at least give them some help out there. At least do something to help out them and build their confidence, right? Because it's not helping anybody out if your secondary is getting roasted out there and you're not helping them at all. And that just bothers me. Is it almost feels like you want to do both, but I just don't think there's a scenario where you can run the current defense you're running, but also build these kids' confidence. It just doesn't seem like it aligns to me.
Yeah, totally agree with you there, dude. Things got to change.
Yep. So, guys, that's kind of our overarching thought here on Gus Bradley, on this defense. I mean, had some moments in that first half that you're like, okay, things might be a little different. But then, of course, in the typical Gus Bradley defense fashion, things started to fall apart a little bit more. Colts couldn't really get anything going, couldn't get off the field. And Derek, we talked about it even on Sunday after the game and also just on the drive home. It's like, gosh, if your defense gets one stop, with how good your offense was looking in that second half, even the last stop of the game, Derek, if your defense gets a stop there, how much could you have potentially gone down and kicked the game-winning field goal? How much could have just one drive of being off the field, getting off the field on a 3rd and long, have completely flipped that game on its head? And that's what's the most frustrating about it is you literally could not get off the field at all. You didn't give your offense an opportunity, no opportunity at all. So just very frustrating. But guys, let us know your thoughts overall on this defense in the comments down below. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. We're trying to make that push to 19K, so we'd love if you guys would help us out in that department. And the Colts are going to have an opportunity here, Derek, with a backup quarterback. And frankly, if things don't change, as much as I don't think Malik Willis is a good quarterback by any stretch, with how Gus Bradley's running his defense right now, I hate to say it, but I'm a little bit nervous because it was that bad. But Colts got to figure it out. Hopefully they do here in week number 2, and things can change here for this defense, and they can give this team and this offense a fighting chance moving forward. Because if not, hate to tell you, Gus Bradley, but your time is coming to a close. So, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.